Hi everybody, my name is Dylan Tonkin and I'm a hiker from Pennsylvania. I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2016. In 2017 I hiked from end to end on the Horseshoe Trail, and this year I'll be tackling the Mid-State Trail in Pennsylvania. Before I head out west, I'm going to fly out to San Diego and start the Pacific Crest Trail, and I'll be thru hiking that this spring. So you can follow along on that adventure. I'm pretty active on Instagram. My handle is dstonkin, Tonkin. And whenever it comes to, hiking thousands of miles, it's incredible the relationships that you form and some of the memories that you make. And I have so many fond memories and photographs that I can look back on. And as I go through my pictures every so often, I start to think about some of the things that have happened to me or that I've done for other people. And the other day I was looking through my pictures and I had a photograph of the Roan Mountain Shelter in Virginia. And I had slept there with a couple of the guys that I was hiking with that I had met along the way. And while we were up in the upper level of the shelter, it was a first floor, and then there was an attic space essentially. You could climb up a ladder too. It was pretty cold out. There was some snow on the ground, and we sat inside, cooked our food, ate our food, and then we were just sitting around. Everybody was kind of slowly falling asleep. And as I fell asleep, I forgot that I was attempting to get pictures of mice, because a lot of the shelters on the AT are polluted with mice. That's where food comes from, and hikers are leaving their garbage behind. So we would play games, or we would turn our red headlamps on and try to get pictures of the mice just for something fun. It was some sort of entertainment, but the mice got back at us that day. I was in my sleeping bag, and I was on an inflatable pad, and I rolled around a little bit, made a little bit of noise. But that night I was woken up because I actually rolled over and I put my hand on my pad, and there was actually a mouse laying inside trying to keep warm. And it woke me up, and I was startled, and I didn't make any sound until I actually sat up and I hit my head on the ceiling of the shelter, because we were on the second floor of the shelter. And I hit my head, and this shelter's it's in decent condition, but it's kind of leaning, it's getting old, and whenever I hit my head, I woke everybody up in the shelter, and nobody knew what was going on because I didn't say anything. So everybody kind of got a good laugh out of it. We learned our lesson. We had to pick up our trash and stop trying to get pictures of the mice. But as I look back, I look back onto the beginning of my hike and the things that I had learned. And one of the things that was really important to me that I learned really early on that others kind of struggle with was we think about managing our food, we manage our pack weight, but one thing that we kind of overlook is managing how much water we're carrying. Typically, whenever I hike, I can know that I can go 10 to 15, possibly up to 20 miles with just 1 liter of water. I don't drink a lot of water whenever I hike. I'm sure that'll change once I get out to the desert of the PCT, but I had noticed early on that there was folks who were carrying 3, 4, 5 liters of water, and every time they would get to a water source, they would fill up, and they weren't aware of where the next water would come from. They were carrying water from one source to the next. And it's just an unnecessary expenditure of energy. If you look at how far you can go on the water that you have, you might not need to hit every water source, or you could just fill up a little bit, take a rest. But that was one thing that I really started to make sure that I was really cognizant of, was how much water I was carrying. And I found that people who were using bladders inside their packs were less aware of how much water they were actually carrying, because their water wasn't something they could pull their water bottle out of their pocket and look at it and say, okay, I have a liter left, I have 2 liters left. They weren't able to identify that, so they were more likely to carry more water than they actually needed. So I think that if you have your water where you can look at it and understand, hey, I need to get water here, or I only have to go 2 more miles, I'm not going to fill up and carry 4 liters of water. That's one thing that I learned really early on, and I think that there was a lot of other people that kind of struggle with it. So I'm sure once I get out to the PCT, I'll be carrying a lot more than 1 or 2 liters of water. But I think that's something you should start to take into consideration. That was probably one of the best tips that I had for some of the hikers that I was spending some time with, was, hey, make sure you're watching your water and not carrying too much. So I do have to thank ThruPack.com I have my through pack and I love it. I was actually carrying the engagement ring that I gave to my fiance for about a week while we were on vacation. So I got some really good pictures with that. But I have to thank those guys for reaching out. I really appreciate the opportunity. And make sure you guys check out my Pacific Crest Trail through hike this year. Thank you.